Today's guest on the second best co-working podcast in the world is Fanny Marcoux, the founder and host of A Very Special Co-working. And this episode is going to be in the LinkedIn co-working group, and Fanny and Mark and Caleb and Suzanne all pop their episodes in there, and we're really encouraging people to chime in and comment on things. And that is the thing that's really brought the LinkedIn co-working group alive over the last few weeks, and I'm going to say over the summer. That group was started around 15, maybe even more than that, years ago by Chris Messina and a few other people. Chris Messina is the inventor of the hashtag that we all use on social media, so it's got a long legacy of co-working, and it kind of died over the last few years, but more and more of you are getting active in there. It is a great way to connect with other people, and because it's a closed group and not on the whole internet, it's a safer space to have conversations and connect with each other. So link in the show notes as ever, or if you go to LinkedIn and it's hidden and you're probably in it and you don't realize you are in it, or go to someone in co-work and you'll see a little red badge that says you're also a member of this group. But I think that's enough for that. Let's get into the show with Fanny. Really enjoyed this episode. And in the show notes, of course, there's a link to all the things Fanny does, which is her YouTube channel about very special co-working. And she's on as nearly as many internet platforms as me. So let's go. Hello, folks. It is a very special co-working values podcast today. And in the studio from A Very Special Co-working is Fanny. See what I did there? I just thought of that.
Yes,
Fanny,
I loved it.
what are you known for? Now I've blown it. And what would you like to be known for?
Well, thank you very much. So I'm known for being the host of another co-working podcast called A Very Special Co-working, a podcast about what makes co-working special. And in today's episode, no, I'm joking. And what I would love to be known for is, so this weekend I listened to a few of your episodes, and one of your guests said something I really like is I would like to be known for the host of a very special co-working podcast, a podcast very successful, getting to know more, getting it to get more known, more popular, and to share the stories, because it's really about the stories of the people working in the co-working industry and in general in the community industry, and to share the story with even more people. That's what I want to be known for.
Me too. We can do that together, Fanny. We can build
Yes,
these stories. We can be the
do
Ira
it.
Glass of podcasting. We're going to put, just before we get into this, folks, we are going to be putting this episode in the LinkedIn co-working group, and Fanny puts her podcast in there, and Mark Navarro, if he has internet access, puts his in there, and Susan and Caleb. And why is that working for you, Fanny? Like putting the podcast in there. Why is that a good idea?
Because that's where a lot of conversation is happening about co-working. So sometimes when you get out of the co-working industry, you talk with other people. Now a lot of people are saying, okay, people can know about co-working right now. Before, they used to absolutely not know what it was about. Now they think it's WeWork, and that's not really it. And so sometimes you might feel a bit lonely, and it's great to be in that group, to connect with other people who are working in the co-working industry or passionate about it, and talk about the one thing we all love: co-working and community. Yeah.
Damn right, sister. And there's always loads more in a podcast that doesn't make it into the podcast. And very often,
Yes.
we're walking around going, oh my God, I can't believe Caleb Parker said that. He's so wrong. And I go and tell him under his post. And it's a safe space. Not very often though. But so in your podcast, how many episodes is it now? It's like, I don't know how many it is.
36, I think, the last one. Yeah.
So is there something you find yourself asking every guest? Like you always want to know that, you always want to know that from a guest before you get going, or as you get into it?
Well, actually, I'm pretty structured. So I always ask the same 5 questions to every guest.
That killed my question completely. But what is that? And being serious now, is that because you find it easier? Is that a formula that you chose because you can just go through it and you know where you are? Or like if I had a formula, I never stick to the formula, even though it's a really good idea. Or is it because those things really matter for you? How did you decide? This is the question within the question. How did you decide on those questions?
Well, I guess I was really inspired by the Christmas ghosts, the past, present, and future. So I thought we only have 30 minutes, so let's make the most of it and talk about the past, present, and future. So I have three questions. One about the past, how did it go? One about the present, how is it going now? And one about the future, what's next? And then I end with two questions, kind of, which is there anything else you want to talk about? So they have a free pass to talk about anything that they want. And second, what's the best way to contact you? Because it's it makes it easy because I ask them and they say, oh, it's a website, or oh, it's this email, or oh, it's on Instagram, or it's on LinkedIn. I add those links in the description so that people can easily find them and talk to them if they want to.
I love that Christmas ghost thing. I didn't see that coming. I'm even more impressed now. All those, my favorite thing at the moment now is calling people co-working community builders. So, and you talk to them. If you go to Fanny's YouTube, I'm jealous of this. It's organized into Latin America interviews, European interviews, and is it Asia or South Asia?
Now I have Asia, Americas, and Europe. And since I'm based in Europe, I have most of my videos about European spaces. But I would love really, Americans are starting to grow bigger, and I really love to have more guests from Asia and some from Africa. I have had conversation with some people. Some are not really comfortable talking in English. Some are speaking French, and so that might be a barrier. But I'm getting there. I have more and more conversation with Africans. I would love to have some of them on my podcast.
Me too. But like Emily and I want to go to. You might even know this website. Do you know a website called Rest of the World? It's about tech
No.
journalism. So it's so ruthless. It's called, and I love it. It's called restoftheworld.com,
Yes.
I think it is. And it is like so much of the tech conversation is European and North American centric.
Yes.
And this is what happens in the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And we just got involved in all the podcasts we've made in the last couple of years, but like more rest of the world is where we're going to go in the next few months in 2026, because so much of the conversation is not rest of the world when it comes to co-working. So that's something we can do. And also in that LinkedIn group, as we were saying beforehand, it's very hard to get outside a little bubble.
It's true that if we stay, we should not. This both. It's interesting to be between people working in the co-working industry because we have the same experience. We can share our lessons learned, best practices, all that. But sometimes we have to get out and to talk about co-working with other people as well. And that's one of the topic I've heard a lot in my podcast is partnership with local businesses, with the local communities, which is not about co-working per se, but about the community, which is also co-working in a way.
There's I think we would have the same idea here. It's this like utopia for me is a co-working space, and Željko that was on your podcast the other day is and helped save this podcast from a watery death about 5 years ago. He has what's it called? What's the name of his co-working space? Do you want to explain it? Can you remember enough? Inspira Hub, yeah. Do you want to? Can you remember enough to? I'm putting you on the spot here, but can you remember the story of his space?
Yeah, so he used to manage his it was a crazy story. I made a short out of it. I love it. I'm going to post it next week, actually. So he started like 13, 12 years ago, doing his own space. It's one of those crazy ideas, you learn about co-working, you're like, oh, I want that in my own town, and you open the space, and you're like, because I open the space, I promote a bit, and etc., people will come. No, they don't. So he he said that he needed 6 people to break even with really the basic costs, so not getting a salary out of it, and he only got 3. So he tried it for like 8 months, but it didn't work, so he closed it. He was going to rent a flat for to work from there. He asked his 3 people if they wanted to come with him. They came with him, and then other people wanted to go in, so they went in a few months up to 8 people. So he would have break even with the previous place, but that didn't work like that. So voila. And he moved to another space, and he kept that for a few months or years. But then again, it was, as some people might know, when you're alone in a co-working, managing everything, it's very tiring, because you're doing so many different jobs and you're just one person with 24 hours a day. So he was thinking about closing it again, and then he had partnership with a local business, a big company in Serbia, that chose to remain in a smaller town and not to go to a bigger city, and wanted to give back to the community. So they partnered together, and now they're doing co-working together. So the company name is Inspira Group. So together they created Inspira Hub, and he's been managing that one for 5 years now, I believe, something like that. And they just moved into a bigger location, so it's very successful, and he's being supported. He's not on his own anymore, and that's really amazing.
And I love that. I love that story. You're supposed to say that in
Yes,
podcasts, aren't you?
I
I
know.
love that story. Because he's like slogged it out for ages, and
Mm.
so much of the town, so much of this little town in there. I always, no, I'm not going to say that because I'll confuse everybody. But I always think it's like so much of the community, and it's not like this super cool ski resort, or anything like that. It's just a regular town in Serbia,
Yes.
and everyone's chipped in. And for the tech company to go, well, we might as well do something worthwhile here and support it. Well,
Mm-hmm.
they're kind of setting the town up for the next 10 years. It's an amazing story. So
Uh,
with
uh,
go on, sorry.
And I love what co-working is doing is smaller towns, because it's really we say sometimes, and it might sound silly, like corporate-ish words, that it's a hub for innovation and creativity. But in smaller town, it really is, because that's the one place that people can gather to work together, to have the infrastructure they need or the space they need to do some deep work and to meet one another, because a co-working is not just a desk, it's also an event space. It's also somewhere where people can meet and do all kind of things together. So it really becomes a real dynamic hub in smaller towns.
So that language in that context I'm okay with, because when I moved from London to Vigo,
Yeah.
so I moved from 8 million people in this
Ooh.
iconic city to there's
Yes.
300,000 people in the region, and there's 15 co-working spaces. There's 15 co-working spaces, and 5 of them are
Yeah.
run by architects. And
Wow.
when when people talk, and I actually went to the university have a kind of business school, and in the business school there's a co-working space. And I asked Ramon, who runs it there, I said, oh, so is there, I kind of said to him, and I might have sounded a bit rude at the time, is there any entrepreneurial ecosystem here? And he's like, yeah, of course there is. And because my idea of what that is what I've seen in London around Silicon
Yeah.
Roundabout and all the stuff, all the tech bros. And I went, oh, so what is that then? And I'm so thinking, saying it out loud now, I'm surprised he didn't punch me for being so Londoner. And he goes, there's a huge container port on a dock, and there's a massive fishing industry. It's one of the biggest docks in Europe. And if you
Mm.
can do some innovation and save like 10 minutes unloading a cargo ship, you save a lot of money. So people are always trying to make the fishing industry better, trying to make the way the dock works better. And Citroen have a
Mhm.
car factory here. So there's all this stuff going on. And he actually said to me, like, Vigo is a, you know, is a town of industrial entrepreneurial people. And I thought this is where the real work gets done, because there's no one in Vigo building an app to pick up your dry cleaning. It's like real grown up meaty problems, or fishy problems. Sorry, um, that was that was really bad. Don't laugh. Something I've got to ask you before we go on is so it's a very special co-working, and
Yes.
so when I'm going to call it a very special co-working, this is what I mean. How has your idea or feeling around that changed? That word in particular, what's
Mm.
special about it now compared with when you started?
I guess when I started, my expectation was that co-working was doing a lot of good, and that's still the case. That didn't change. Huh? But that it was, as I was saying, a hub, dynamic, creativity, innovation, or that, and that we should have much more of that. And because I want to see more co-working spaces, I thought I should share the story, and that was it. But now I know that it's a crazy story as well, because you gotta be crazy to start a co-working space, because just as many small businesses, not just in the co-working industry, in all industries, they fail. And to start with co-working is to put yourself on the path to failure, because it's entrepreneurial journey. So you will have a lot of ups and downs, and it's tough. And when you start and you're alone, it can be really complicated. That's why having a group, having a community with other co-working manager can be amazing. And seeing all those people who did it, who succeeded, and who are keeping on doing it again and again and again, showing up every day and managing their community and helping their local community to grow, I think it's really amazing. And I'm just in awe in front of all those people.
So when someone says to you, "Oh, Fanny, I'm thinking of starting a co-working space," like what do you want to scream at them? Like, do this, don't do that.
Maybe. Are you sure? Have you talked to other co-working manager? Are you in a group? Usually they have groups for the whole country. So there's association in Hungary, in Canada, in London, in the UK, in Belgium, I believe so. So being part of the group, having all the blueprint or that, not doing it from scratch, really thinking about it, starting small, or maybe starting with a partnership, because you can partner with governments, with businesses, with local communities. So there's a lot of things you can do and a lot of ways you can start it. So really, really do your homework and learn about it a lot, and see how you will do in the first few years, because that's the most critical.
So those same people, because like, and this happens to me, is people go, "Oh,
Mm.
I'm starting a co-working space," and then I have to get all kind of geeky and pedantic. Like, is it a co-working space or is it a shared office? Are you flexi working? Like, what?
Yeah.
If you how would how would you describe the difference? Like, in your opinion, I'm looking for your
Mm.
opinion here, not the kind of industry answer. What's the difference for you?
To me, both are interesting. Flex office has always been there as also called business centers, you know. So you're just renting a room, maybe with desk, maybe not, and that's it. It's really real estate management. While to me, co-working is something else. Some people are doing co-working online, so it doesn't even have to have a physical space. You don't have to. So it's really about gathering people to do deep work, to do some social events, and it's really about the community. Mm.
With that kind of that community word,
Yes.
what with all the people you interview, is there something you see them all? I mean, what's surprising, or what do people say about community that like stays with your head? So after you've interviewed someone, you know, you keep thinking about what they've said. Are there around that? My question's around that kind of community, belonging, connection
Yes.
thing. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. That it's complicated. It's difficult because not everybody is looking for the same things. There are truly people who go to a co-working space because they just want a space to work from, and they're not interested in anything else. So those people exist, and there are people who want a bit more. So you have to, do really go stretch a bit thin, because you go from one opposite to the other, and you have to manage all that. And one thing as well is that a lot of people try to organize some kind of events, even getting feedback from the members to see what kind of events they would like, and then nobody's showing up. But people asked for those, so you're like, okay, events are one of the interesting things in the co-working space, but when I organize them, no one's showing up. So it's very complicated to manage that human side of saying, okay, what kind of events and what kind of activities should I organize, and how do I make people go to them, and not just saying, oh, at the end of the day I just want to go home or get the kids, or just make dinner at home, and I want to be in the space anymore.
All of that you just said reminds me of this post on LinkedIn I saw must have been in lockdown, and I think the same thing sometimes. Is
Mm.
she was an English woman who was living and working in Singapore, and
Mm-hmm.
she was in a co-working space, and she goes, "Is it possible to come to one of these?" And she went fucking co-working spaces without doing all the community stuff. I have 3 kids. I have 5 hours to do all my work, running this company. I don't, it wasn't Adobe, but it was like it was a big company like that. It was like a deadly serious
Mm-hmm.
company. She's like, I have 5 hours to get all this thing done. The reason I come here is so I don't talk to anybody, because everybody talks to me in my house, and I don't want to talk to anybody for 5 hours. I want to be on my keyboard. I don't want to have,
Yeah.
community love-ins and stuff. And I because I know what you mean. I love a bit of community, but some days
Mm-hmm.
I just want to not talk to anybody too. So it is
Yeah.
tricky. What's
Mm-hmm.
what is so I'm not sure how to ask this. It's a really good question, but I don't know how to say it. But like, what first struck me about you is you seem really interested in people's stories. So you do have your 5 questions, but
Yes.
there's like a framework, but I'm going to accuse you of having the framework in order to go deeper into what people are doing. And I also like the way you don't have the most famous people in co-working on, apart from Željko and Tony. Like it's people who don't often get a seat at the table, and that made it even more interesting.
Yeah,
So
I
what?
love to
Yeah.
have both people who have big spaces. I have had guests who have uh, thousands of members, or several, like 10 different spaces. And it's great to hear about the story and about how they make it so big. I've had people who are the community manager of a tiny space, and sometimes a very tiny space, and they're both interesting, and they both have an interesting story, again, with people who have been in the industry for like 15 years. Some it's been 1 year, so they just started, and both those stories are interesting. So it's great to have a diversity, to not get too homogeneous and to not have too much of the same thing, but to get really all kind of different point of views.
What interests you about finding when you're like preparing for an episode and researching? What is the I don't even know what to call it. Like, what's running through your head? Like, I need to hunt down the thread or the story, or like what I want to say something a bit more interesting than what drives you, but there's something else there. I know what it is, and it happens to me, but I don't know how to articulate it.
Yeah, I think at some point I was wondering because I have all kind of guests. So I was saying physical co-working, virtual co-working. I even interviewed people managing co-living because to me it's a bit similar but different. And so I've had all kind of people. I was wondering, oh, should I just stick to co-working owners, just owners, not even community managers or event managers, just co-working owners, and interview them, and should I go look for the most known people or people managing the most successful or the biggest co-working out there? But as I was saying, I think even though their stories sure are interesting and I want them as well, I should not just look for one type of people. It's great to have diversity and to explore the different stories in the co-working industry that there are. And there are so many different ways to do this and so many different uh, entry point and journeys. And I really want to explore and discover them all. I thought at some point that I want to interview all the co-working manager or theirs, but we'll see about that.
It must be like 15,000 now. So
Thank
this
you.
is the part, Fanny, where we say, "Is there anything I didn't ask you that you want to
I
say
know
or
that
be asked?"
question.
You know, like
Well, we talk about. I'm gonna answer when my guest answer. We talk about so many different things. It was really complete. I'm like, it was only 30 minutes. No, there's always something, but it's difficult to think about it. Now I know it. Uh, well, here, what can we talk about? I think really to emphasize how I'm thinking right now about changing my name from a very special co-working to a very crazy co-working because uh, it's kind of crazy out there. It's not just a jungle burning, it's crazy too. So we have to highlight that and to really support each other. And we'd love to see, we have talked about it on the linking group, to see a directory with all the different resources and all the different ideas people have had in co-working. And that would help a lot of people to swim. I'm making the movement, but you can see to swim
on the
like a salmon in that river that is co-working.
upstream.
Yes.
There's see those they used to be the Google, LinkedIn, Google co-working group. So these places do
Ah,
exist, but
yes.
then hardly anybody goes there. And because there's more and more people in co-working, other people go to find it. So like once every 6 months, I'll remember that the Google co-working group moved over to this other platform. And I was one of the people that helped do that, along with Jan and Tony and Alex, and there's a couple of other people, and Hector. But people don't. I'm not. If you're listening to this, folks, I'm not upset with you. I'm just saying, like, it's there, but no one really knows about it because none of us talk about it. And there are
Mm-hmm.
other groups that I'm in, but there's no. I don't think you need to have one central place. You need to have one place that everybody knows about, or a place that a lot of people can go to, because
Yeah.
there's reinventing. That's that's something that constantly, I'm going to say, distresses me, is how many people reinvent the wheel because they
Yeah.
don't know that all these conferences and events and
Resources.
podcasts and
Yes.
resources exist. So they're like chat
Yeah.
GTPing how to start a co-working space, but they could go to you know, if they went a little bit, if they took 2 steps further to the left, they'd find all these people wanted to help them.
Yeah. Yeah, and when you put yourself in their shoes, it's difficult when you start. You don't know where to go, you don't know who to ask, and it feels so empty, but not really. So I know so many people have already listed resources. So I'm thinking it would be great to list one another, and to have all those resources between being mentioned and listed like everywhere, so that when you make a Google search or ask ChatGPT, the first result you get is all those resources between being mentioned in one another. So it would be super easy to find. But
Do you know coworking.com?
Yes, I do.
Yeah,
I didn't. I learned about it this year, so I was like, "Oh my god, it exists!"
Yeah, here's a little call to action, folks. As a group of us, and you all know who you are, who could get that together. But that's it. Like, do you want to sing a song for the last minute? But where can people find you online, Fanny?
Thank you. Well, I'm the most active on LinkedIn, so you can find me at Fanny Marcoux on LinkedIn, and you can find a very special coworking on your preferred platform, may that be YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Substack, Medium, and LinkedIn.
Is that all? You're not on Geezer, Deezer, Megacore, Tech Pro. Anyway, that is. I thank you for all of that. I really, really appreciate that, and I love your style and attitude that you bring to all of this. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to put this on the LinkedIn co-working group, and then we're going to hunt you down to comment on it. And there'll be, as you're listening to this, there'll be things you think, oh, I know that resource, or I did that thing. Just chuck that in the comments, because the more people that comment, the more people that comment. And it's not so much to get adulation for Fanny and I, it's that you see each other. Like we say, John Alexander, who's either before or after this podcast, his whole mantra is find the others. And there's so many people out there, and when we all find each other, the world will be a better place. But I think that's pretty much everything. That's already a long outro, so I'm going to stop. Wherever you are in the world, be careful out there. It is a jungle. Say goodbye, Fanny.
Bye-bye.